Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Los Angeles Rams Insider Podcast. I'm your host and beat writer, Brock Vieira. You can check out all of our work at www.si.com/NFL /Rams /on SI, where we drop double digit pieces of content every single day pertaining to the Rams, free agency, the draft, so on and so forth. And that brings us into our episode today, which is talking about the 2026 NFL draft, the mock draft I was just a part of, the moves that I made as the Rams general manager, and how we could see those moves reflect the intentions of the Rams, of course, moving forward into the actual NFL draft, which is supposed to take place in April. So before we get into the mock that I participated in, just want to give you guys a little bit of background regarding it. It's made of a whole bunch of different draft analysts, draft enthusiasts, writers, and so on and so forth. There's human general managers. We participate in a 7 round mock that is still going on. The reason I'm not participating in it is because I traded up to make 2 first round selections this year. It's a very exciting way to go about it. So, first off, I want to tell you guys about how the draft worked out. So, first off, there was a trade that launched the Tampa Bay Buccaneers into the number 3 slot. The Arizona Cardinals traded back. The Cardinals traded away the third overall pick and Sean Murphy Bunting for the 15th overall selection and a 2027 first and third round pick. The first several picks were your expected names. Fernando Mendoza went first overall to the Raiders. Arvell Reese and Philly Styles from Ohio State went second and third to the Jets at Buccaneers. Makes a lot of sense for the Jets. They traded away Jermaine Johnson for a defensive tackle, T'Vondre Sweat. So we do expect the Jets to address the edge position. What is important to note is that I expected a run on edges to occur. That's not what happened. Yes, Arvell Reese went first, but the next true edge drafted was Ruben Bain Jr. out of Miami at the 10th overall pick. Actually, sorry, the ninth overall pick to the Kansas City Chiefs. And then the third, David Bailey from Texas Tech, went to the Miami Dolphins at pick 11. So that's just something to keep an eye on. But as we expected coming in, 3 edges would go off the board, a position the Rams are not in immediate need of. I ended up selecting with the 13th overall pick, Makai Lemon, wide receiver out of USC. He's the Blitnikoff Award winner, phenomenal route runner, great hands. I got a chance to watch him personally at the Las Vegas Bowl when I covered that event. The guy is electric. Is also an incredible returner as well, which I think would provide Rams fans some comfort. I'm not out on Xavier Smith, but in situations where the Rams need to be able to just catch the ball, I don't think there's anyone better than Lemon. And when he has the ball in his hands, he can do some things. I don't see him being a permanent returner for the Rams, maybe assisting on the kickoff return. Probably not on punt because he's just so effective as a wide receiver. I think the Rams want to avoid potential injury to him. But the reason why I mentioned Lemon as a wide receiver is because 2 other wide receivers went off the board before him. Jordan Tyson from Arizona State went 5th overall to the Giants. And then, of course, Carnell Tate went as the second wide receiver at the 7th overall pick to the Washington Commanders. Both picks make a lot of sense considering both possess young quarterbacks on rookie deals. Jackson Dart for the Giants, and then Jaden Daniels for the Commanders. But when you talk about the conversation of maybe moving up to get a Cardinal Tate, who is much more of that outside threat compared to a guy like Lemon, who's more of an interior threat, there's a likelihood the Rams will have to move up, especially if they see Cardinal Tate as a potential successor to Devontae Adams. There's a lot to love about Cardinal Tate, and I do think that regardless if they do select a wide receiver, having a guy like Robert Woods and the coach as a coach, you'll be able to integrate them into that culture while having there's the typical standard coaching voices of Eric Yarber and Rob Calabrese and just the entire staff, along with voices like Devontae Adams and Puka Nakua, that really reinforces a young message for any type of wide receiver, but especially an outside threat because that's the type of player the Rams are going to need moving forward. Where Lemon is much more of a luxury in order to have to make plays on the inside. Either way, I think that's a very smart way for the Rams to go, especially as they use free agency to address their defense and special teams. The reason that this was important to state now is because when you look at the rest of the draft, not a whole lot of non-edge defenders went off the board. Sonny Styles, of course, linebacker, but that's to be expected. Caleb Downs, safety for Ohio State, another expectation. Peter Woods, Clemson, another expectation. But there's there's a thought that maybe some cornerbacks could go early. Jermon McCoy only went at 12, and he was the first one off the board. McCoy from Tennessee, he went to the Dallas Cowboys. But when you're looking at that cornerback room, and if the Rams were invested in getting another defensive back to really round out that unit, there's a potential where these cornerbacks might fall for the Rams to go and trade back into the first in order to get them. And the reason why the Rams might be a little bit more favorable of giving up extra picks to move back into the first is due to the fact of you get the 5th year option, which helps out with the contracts and potential extensions, especially for a defensive back, because McDuffie is a long-term solution, but you're not too sure if Jalen Watson is going to be a 2 year or 3 year solution. You don't know what you're going to get out of him. At least with a 5 year option that covers you for when McDuffie's contract expires and long after Watson's deal is done, especially as the Rams transition into the future without Matthew Stafford. The other reason you want to look at the way the board is shaking out is because no tight ends went early. And that's where my second pick came in, which at the number 20 pick, I traded with the Dallas Cowboys. I sent the Rams' second and third round pick, 61 and 93, plus a 2027 second round pick, which means the Rams have no day 2 picks as their third for next year went to the Trent McDuffie trade. In exchange, I got the 20th overall pick and pick 180. And that's what I used to select Kenyon Sadiq out of the University of Oregon to give Matthew Stafford another top offensive weapon and a tight end that can double as a receiver, which gives the Rams a lot of flexibility and versatility if they want to, run 12 personnel, but with a flexed up tight end, 13 personnel, you can flex out multiple tight ends now that you have also Terrence Ferguson. And even though that would require keeping 5 tight ends on the roster, the Rams are going to use all five tight ends. Plus, Tyler Higbee has a documented injury history. He might not be active for all 17 games. He wasn't last year. He wasn't the year before that because of the injury he suffered in the 2023 wild card round. So you just have to factor in all these things. But when you start looking at that price, well, that's not a bad price at all. And maybe if they wait couple picks, they might trade back and maybe come back into the first at a later point because picks made after that include other top wide receivers like Casey Concepcion from Texas A&M, cornerback Avion Terrell out of Clemson. You can also maybe get Anthony Hill Jr., the off-ball linebacker out of Texas, if you want to have a good pairing for Nate Landman. There's a lot of ways you can go about it. But what this mock draft revealed is that no matter what way you want to attack it, there's possibilities for the Rams to do a variety of things. I think that there's a good chance they stick at 13 and then later on they jump back into the first. And here's why. One, you're going to get 2 premier picks. 2, you're going to get those 5th-year options on those picks, which are going to help as you start to factor in these potential looming extensions for the 2023 and 2024 class, and then also the void years that are likely to be added onto these extensions to make the money work. And then last but not least, the less picks that you have, the less you have to pay in terms of signing your draft class, which means you can attack free agency with a little bit more vigor. While the Rams, I don't expect them to make a massive purchase, the post-draft veteran free agent market oftentimes defines Super Bowl teams because of who they pick up at the price that they pick them up at. I think there's a tremendous amount of value, especially on special teams, and that is why the less picks you have, the more it makes sense. I with Lemon and Sadiq, you are going to get 2 players that you know are going to be able to contribute right away. And then they also have those 5th-year options. So when we're talking about life after Matthew Stafford, that's also going to include life after Davante Adams. So that's 2 massive contracts off the books. So when you start looking at how the Rams are going to be able to maintain their core, well, now you're going to have enough money to keep most of your offensive line together. I don't think the Rams re-signed Coleman Shelton after this year just because of his age, but I do think Steve Avila and Kevin Dotson are 2 names that the Rams want to keep around. I think Warren McClendon's extension is virtually a done deal. It's just more a matter of time of when rather than if. So then when whomever you bring in, whether it's a veteran or a rookie or whatever you do at the quarterback position, you're talking about maintaining your offensive line, maintaining Puka Nacua, and still having Mykhi Lemon and Kenyon Sadiq and potentially Terrence Ferguson all on their rookie deals, there's a lot that you can do with that. So that's why I think it's going to be exciting times for the Rams. And that's just the latest, of course, from this latest mock draft. This has been Brock Vieira from Los Angeles Rams Insider Podcast. We'll catch you all next time. Take care.